tumble where a bunch of longtime friends and internet nerds transcend geography through the power of Discord to play Dungeons and Dragons, and critically fumble a lot. Previously, after sort of sorting out the issue with the house arrested protector Azamar in Anbir, um, to quote Barnabas, like Abel in a china shop, I know whereof I speak. Um, some other shit started going pretty sufficiently down, and there's now some empowered in unknown ways fallen Azamar, and most of the group is wandering around Avernus trying to find Alice A because those empowered fallen Azamar douchebags kind of dumped her in the middle of it for no particular reason, as far as anybody can tell. They don't care why, they just care that she's in Avernus and this is basically a bad thing. Of course, there are a few problems at the moment that they're doing the one thing at a time thing about, but some of it might come and drop on their heads anyway. Part of it is that they are in Tiamat's backyard. Following on from that, the fact that there's two factions of devils apparently at war with each other around the one spot they've effectively decided that Alice is in. And, of course, now there's also demons fleeing various levels of the abyss, trying to find themselves some new real estate, and clambering around this particular layer of hell because, well, it's safer than, well, where Lolth is living now. Of course, there's also the fact that time in Avernus goes more quickly than time on the prime material plane, so by the time they got there, Alice had already been there for about a week-ish, more or less. They also found out when they got there and had a rather unfortunate run-in with some Vrox, they found out where Jessamy was dumping any of the guard that found out about the whole various of them are fallen thing. They're apparently not all dead. The ones that have managed to stay alive and uncaptured upon being dumped into Avernus are currently in a little hidden encampment in the basically graveyard of the Hell Riders, which is a thing. But after finding some evidence that Alice was at the very least free in herself, like some days ago, they don't really know how many because there's not really a sun. There's just it gets darker sometimes. They camped in Shuri's magic bubble for the night. While I am going to find my dice, because I always forget to bring those, I would like for Remy to make me a charisma saving throw, please.
Jesus Christ.
Well, it's a paladin. It's a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you mostly wake up after some disturbing but unremembered in any kind of clarity dreams. But you know that's kind of what you got at the minute.
Gets up and gets ready to move out.
Yep. Well, to be fair, I was asking for that just so that you're not necessarily awake right yet because Shuri. Well, first of all, Rylan is going to beat all y'all up because Rylan only trances for 4 hours, and Shuri is up a little bit early. Sufficient rest, but when the rest of y'all wake up, Remy probably no levels of exhaustion, but it's not quite as easy as just boing, getting ready to move. It's but when y'all are waking up and getting ready to start your day, Cherie has basically she sits right up and starts reading. She apparently brought books. Why she brought books, nobody has. Well, Rylan probably hasn't asked because Rylan probably knows better than to interrupt when power reading. So yeah, rest of you wake up. Remy probably a little bit groggier than usual. It'll shake off soon enough, but it's not just boing.
You okay there with me?
Tired.
Uh,
Rough night.
Yeah, not surprisingly.
I mean,
yeah, very valid.
I I would hesitate to be quite that accepting of that when people who wish you harm want your blood. This from the book. Flip.
Oh, yes, but I mean, mm, I'm not
what it?
feeling anything that feels like I don't
Yeah.
know, a curse.
That's immediately suspicious.
Very.
Remember where we are and in whose backyard we're
Yeah.
sitting.
Yes,
I was actually more
gestured.
yes, I was actually more thinking about, as I said, the people who have your blood. Incidentally, uh, I didn't really have the time to do the kind of in-depth research I would have wanted to do before we left, because obviously time was a factor. But what I did do with the hour that I had was talked around some booksellers for some various bits of information. You do have Clarity going. I'm sorry, I am not allowed to pass these around. It's only the fact that my employer is what he is as well as who he is that I was allowed to take them at all. I had a thought, and this seems to back it up. I think I know what happened to Jessamy and her little group. What they became.
Hmm.
You probably all haven't heard about this. Have you ever heard of the Aranese?
No.
They're a kind of devil. We're bound to see a lot of them around here. They're apparently descended from fallen celestials.
Ah.
So, a fallen Azamar is probably sort of like one of those without the actual devil power boost, because they're not actually celestials of a fallen solar variety. Which brings me to my next point. I mean, you know Asmodeus rules over the Nine Hells. That's pretty standard even for Barnabas, who's only been in this particular world for a few years. You do know that even a god ruling over 9 layers of hell, where everybody wants to push the boundaries of power, is not going to work out very well. So there's archdukes and archduchesses, and the one for Avernus. For Remy in particular, this is not going to be unduly. This is not going to be particularly pleasant. Zariel, literally a fallen solar. We're not sure if Zariel is a direct replacement or whether Zariel came from some other prime material plane or how that worked out. It never seems to mention Paylor. It's mostly one I've never heard of, frankly. But the point is that a fallen solar rules this particular level of hell.
Hmm.
And yes, it's entirely likely that there are mid to high level devils wandering around the prime material plane right now.
Fuck!
Aranis, rather attractive in the standard of solars, etc. Feathered wings. Usually wear armor that makes them look a bit more devilish. Very good with charms. They do that fear thing you particularly hate, Barnabas. Sorry about that.
I'm more concerned with the fact that they're on the prime material.
Well, once again, there is nothing we can do about it. Also, I've heard a couple of stories from Barnabas. Alice. She has a tendency to attempt to gain information or access by infiltration. And she probably wouldn't have to do much with disguised self to look like one of the Aranyes.
She definitely would do something like that.
Well, let's hope she doesn't, because they have true sight.
Gosh.
Hmm.
Knowing her, I wouldn't be surprised if she tried anyway. Although if she knows they have true sight, she probably wouldn't.
None of you even knew they existed. We're not even sure. That's the other thing. It's not like anyone told her where she was getting dumped.
True.
Does she even know where she is right now?
I feel like, how many other realms look like this?
Mm.
We haven't been.
I
to
mean,
one, so we
knowing
don't
you
know.
are in one of the hells isn't really all that useful.
Well, it's a start.
A real small one.
I mean, in all fairness, there are 9 separate hells. Depending on where she ended up around here, it could be Fireplane for all she knows.
Mm.
That's the thing. There's a whole lot we don't know about how she might react, and one of the things that we do at least need to try to figure out is what is the likelihood that she is captured, killed, or otherwise, incapacitated.
There are 100 terrible things that could have happened to her. I don't know how we get indication for anything by anything other than
Oh, I'm not necessarily
like
saying we
betrayal.
have to decide which one. I'm just saying that we should probably. That's what Sharps down there was trying to say. We don't need to figure out every single possibility. We need to look at the 3 likely ones of the going wrong variety and figure out how we deal with them. Just so that we're not flailing at the end of it. The way I figure it is, got caught, one way or another, because there's dozens of ways she could have got caught. So we're bunching those all into one specific. That's the one horrible thing right there. All of the different ways she could get killed, they're another one big lump. And incapacitated, which could technically fall into the other 2, but if she's free and somehow incapacitated, that's another whole lump. Which we should also think of just in case she's captured and incapacitated, because that sounds like the easiest way to catch that one. That's the 3 things I think we should at least figure out. I'm sorry, I am a secretary. I like some semblance of order. If she's dead, we need to figure out where her soul is. Or just give her up for dead. Those are the options. Because if she has died here, something has her soul. And how we find it is anyone's guess.
Well, there are still ways to ask our deities for at least a direction in that context. Whether or not that works is up in the air.
Well, I think a lot of that is going to depend on, I mean, what can you offer for that? Because the gods, this would be directly pitting God against God. Because I mean, in a sort of a roundabout way, but the gods we know, the ones behind the Divine Gate, put Asmodeus here. Bahamut put Tiamat here. This is not their domain. Even searching around this level of hell, enough to find that soul, it would require something, I would think. It's a possibility, but it's one you need to think about. I don't have any pull with the gods. The one that I might give nods to has been off the celestial grid for centuries. I'd be a knowledge and wisdom individual. But Zivillin has been off-grid for a very long time. In fact, most people don't even really remember her, but I live in Ambier, so if she's dead, we need to figure out if we can find her soul at all. If not, I'm figuring massive revenge ride. That's not my business at that point. Captured.
We'll find.
Captured. I'm letting you handle the finding the soul or not. I'm laying out everything, and you can deal with them as and when we finish up that particular bit. Captured, we need to figure out a way to get her out. I don't think that can involve a fight. We are drastically outnumbered, drastically outgunned. It would involve a certain amount of subterfuge, sneakery, bargaining, some combination of the above. Some of us are not very good at any of that. It would be a whole thing. But we'd need to figure out an approach that might actually work to, A, find out who she's been captured by, because I can imagine a former Solar of Sun God from some place, Archduchess of Hell might be particularly interested in that one, particularly if Tiamat actually wants her. That's another thing. And incapacitated by the sticks, we're back to gods again. Because that requires more
Divine intervention.
Or lesser miracles than that. Divine intervention of the direct kind isn't the only way. It's just...
Miracle level magic.
Yes.
Is what we're getting at.
The kind we don't have yet.
And speaking of people we're talking to, I'm just going to put out there getting a hold of a certain red dragonborn associated with Tiamat. That's already on our list, but that just goes up the scale because of that would be a person we, depending on what kind of leverage we can get the information we want out of, or rather need out of.
That'll depend on who we run into first.
Well, that'll depend on how we approach it, because as they were telling us, we've got a few days of travel, we need to cross the Styx, and then there's 2 armies in the way.
We're hoping to skirt around.
Didn't they say that was next to impossible? We were going to investigate supply lines, but the problem is if they have true sight,
Let's see where it throws.
At that point, the problem stacks, and we just kind of have to hope for the best at that point. Because
Winged individuals with true sight. You think they're not using those as scouts?
And we
Hmm.
can't afford to just wing it here.
That's what I'm saying.
unfortunately, we do have to at least start in that direction
Oh
because
yes,
Yes, that's fine.
like I say, we don't have to sit here until we figure it out. But I'm seeing this. I've heard some things. You tend to think I'm going to do this thing and I'll deal with what comes when it comes, which on one level can sometimes work. On the other hand, it can also wind up bull in a china shop, as has been stated. Uh, I'm not sure how to say this without sounding a little bit holier than thou, but does your friend, your wife, not deserve better than that?
Yes.
And honestly, at this point, anything you can think of that might be of some kind of use, sing out while we're traveling. Then starts passing out the ration bars, basically. Come on, you're gonna need to keep your strength up.
One crazy thought I had was get our count out, but that's never gonna work.
Um, do you want to elaborate on that one?
I mean, I mean, I'm not sure how we get him to, but just a thought that came to my head.
Well, that if we're still talking, that's what they mean by red dragonborn with mucked up hand. That's on the list. It's
Mm,
just I think the problem, from what I understand your situation to be, is that while he's here, he's with Tiamat's main body. She's going to be more aware of what he does here.
mm.
That's a consideration we really need to think about. But there is one thing we have that we didn't have a little while ago. Um, well, consider. Blood ritual has turned mortal celestials to. I know it's a little bit of an oxymoron, but there it is. Into, well, frankly, Erinese. So we have some idea now, if you want to extrapolate from that, as to what this soul taint would do to a celestial, to an Azamar, if the level of power they did with that blood ritual made mortal into devil.
Hmm.
The soul taint would probably be that, but worse. So, maddened archdevil.
or maybe the demon equivalent, if there even is one.
Oh, that's yeah. That, and I suppose that is the issue. It's whether or not the sheer madness of the soul taint would... His devils are more about the order. Evil, but order. Demons are just about chaos. So I suppose that's the issue. Which could solve part of her problem, weirdly. If she was incapacitated and then captured, they'd have to return her faculties to her before they did anything like that to her.
Mm.
Arkan, as far as I've understood from what you've all said, is not a stupid man.
Hmm.
And how are you supposed to judge the psychological effects on someone who's at base level of intellect and reason?
Hmm.
You need to know that before trying to give it to a god, because the last thing you want is giving that to a god, not knowing what it will do to, well, what passes for their minds. And again, they probably won't want her dead either, on the basis that, well, then they'd have to try and find her soul somewhere, and that would probably not be an easy thing, as we ourselves know. That doesn't mean something else wouldn't have killed her, but honestly not sure what to hope for half the time. I'm sorry, I know I sound very detached about this. I don't know her as well, and somebody has to balance out the personal of all this.
No, definitely. No one thinks any less of you for you provide very good perspective for all of us.
You've got to keep a cool head, or if we got any hope of getting anywhere.
Of course, then there is the other issue that I don't think we focused very much on, given the the abandoned Azamar that we passed by. They've one or more of those either one of those armies, both of those armies, or the demons have captured some of theirs. We need to decide what, if anything, can be done about that.
Mm.
Yeah.
Ugh, too many fires, not enough buckets.
That's a great way of
It's
putting it.
yeah, it's down to just investigating further and getting that info that we're missing.
Yes, I'm just laying the groundwork for the likely possibilities, mentally speaking. Because sometimes we don't have 10 minutes to go, okay, what do we do now? When we have information. I mean, you kind of had proof of that with everything the last little while. And you're lacking the person who would normally walk you through that sort of thing. I am not an adequate substitute, but I do my best.
You're more than adequate.
To you, yes. However, I think I'm lacking something for your former co-mercenary.
I don't have
I'm
anything to say. yet.
I'm attempting teasing.
Yep.
It's not working particularly well. I accept this. It's all right. You apparently had a fairly rough night.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let's hope that sort of thing doesn't come back to plague us, but just keep an eye on yourselves a bit, particularly those of you who got uh, put into cages and attempted to be fed to a devil eel. I don't trust it when people have particularly bad nights, when a known quantity of evil has your blood.
Very fair. Hmm.
If it helps, rummages around in the bag again. And I invested in this. I think it should be alright, even with Avernus being Avernus. Egrephian import. Pulls out thermos. Opens thermos. Smell is coffee. Gives the cup to Barnabas first. I would deprive no thinking being of their coffee. And just it fills the cup and passes it around when it refills at the end of the day. I've got water skin, etc. in there as well, but that's a thing. I suppose it would probably be Remy who would know this one. I know that Alice carries a bag of holding. Do you know what is in it? Out of character, probably. She is from the wastes. She tends to carry survival kit basically everywhere, especially now that she has a bag of holding. She was the one who reminded you guys of the need for picking up some water, cloths around the face to keep you from getting too much sand damage. So she's probably got at least some survival kit in that bag right now.
Hmm. Yeah, she'll have supplies for a decent while, at the least.
Good to know, because it takes one of the variables out of the equation, because if she did know about the river and didn't have any water, that would be the primary issue.
Hmm.
Right, I mean, keep moving, watch for scouts, I suppose.
So can I probably be keeping a careful eye out on any sign of movement or
Yeah, well, I mean, if you're traveling, so um, all of y'all make me perception checks.
trying to distract myself from worrying about Alice and failing.
Yeah, that's generally speaking Rylan, which I suppose is a fairly good thing, as Will, Remy, Barnabas, and Hazel, and also Clarity, make me charisma saving throws, please.
That was gonna hurt.
People have +3 if they're within 10 feet of Remy.
Yeah.
Charisma save.
And to be, oh, I'm gonna hand a fate this one. Although no, sorry, Ava, no, you
Ah,
don't
then
need
I'm just
to.
gonna.
It was specifically Remy, Hazel, Barnabas,
Ah,
and Clarity. And
those are their blood taking.
yeah, no, the +3 has not particularly helped Barnabas at this point. Okay. This is gonna suck. I know how this is gonna sound, but Barnabas at this point is absolutely convinced that he needs to get that tracker ring off of Remy and away somewhere. And yes, he's going to act on it because that was a 9.
Oh no.
Mm. Mm.
And of course, since Remy rolled absolute shit on perception, um, anything you do is going to be a surprise attack, I'm afraid.
Is this something where he's got to be automatically attack violent, or can he just?
No, it basically it's ring needs to be not reachable anymore. Needs to be got rid of. Needs to not be in the equation. Which means gauntlet has to come off, ring has to come off, and ring has to be inaccessible permanently.
Mm. Remy, give me a hand.
Well, wait, what?
I'm sorry, you've got perception of jack shit. There's got to be a reason.
Well, what is it, Barnabas?
I think that ring is a weakness. So he can track us with it.
What?
I mean, theoretically? I mean, if somebody else has it, couldn't they
No,
point to where you are? Technically?
right. So we haven't. It's not safe.
It's hardly a way to figure out
It-
what she is.
Yeah, it is our only way to
We're
navigate
not getting
out
rid of
here.
it.
I mean, in all fairness, we were aiming for Arkin's Tower anyway, and that's basically the direction we're heading in right now.
I mean, we're
We also
hoping
do have
there.
alternatives, so let's run with at least someone else here being a hold of it. Ava or Barnabas.
I'm alright with that.
No, I'll fucking hold the ring.
Why
No,
does it matter who holds the ring?
To be fair, she has a point. If it's being used to track us, if it's with us at any point, they're going to be able to follow us with it.
which is why we got to get rid of it.
I'm not getting rid of it. That's too risky over a maybe that they use it against us. And if they were tracking us, nobody showed up other than
Yeah, that's a
those
good point.
birds. Those are just demonic wild animals, not soldiers.
Barnabas is going to do something that Remy hasn't seen him do in years, which is get right in Remy's face, and he isn't usually normally is doing everything he can to minimize himself. Now he's going to loom.
Um,
Well,
That
let's
damn-
see. So
yeah, did I mention that Cherie has insight out the ass? Okay, now I'm getting a little bit concerned.
Remy, shut your
You and
chin
me
up.
both.
Shut
Oh,
your chin up, butt.
Okay, I mean, Barnabas intimidation check, I guess. Yeah, jutting chin up, yeah, but dude is scary.
Yeah,
Um,
chill. Lean back a step.
Barnabas, I understand the concern here, but you don't loom. You hate
It's,
looming.
Yeah, this isn't like you.
we got to get rid of it. We have
No,
to.
we
It's gonna
don't.
get us all killed.
Okay.
Both making fair points. However,
We're
Rylan,
we are
say
better
it.
off with us still having that ring on, because at least in the event that Alice is not in Arkan's tower, we'll still have a guide pointing us to wherever the hell she is, wherever the he
Let's
or she
wait.
is.
Can
Yes, let's wait to make that decision.
yeah, can
Oh.
Barnabas make me a wisdom saving throw now, please? No, this is a good thing. This is a good thing, and do you know why?
Why?
Because Cherie has hold monster. And now I would like you. Now I would like you to make me another charisma save.
Oh, you got put in the timeout bubble.
At which point it's a wait a minute. It's like first of all, it's what the I can't move. Wait a minute. What the fuck was I just doing?
Well, uh,
No, you
uh,
no you can't speak. You can't move. I think I can probably let him go now, but Remy, back up a bit,
Yeah,
You go
please.
back up a bit.
and you can move again.
and Barnabas falls on his ass. His eyes are wide as saucers, and he literally starts pushing himself away. Like, oh, what the hell was that?
Sorry, but you clearly needed a minute.
No, 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 no. Yes, I did. I almost drew on her.
Oh
Yeah,
god.
he's thinking out about himself.
So wait, that wasn't.
No, something
wasn't
hit me with a
entirely
whammy.
him.
Remy looks around as if there was a
No.
spellcaster in range, which there definitely
Well, first
isn't.
of all, we're still going by your original perception check. So,
Yeah.
Rylan can, at the very least, tell you
Mhm.
no, no. There's nobody within visible distance at this point. Your elf eyes see jack shit.
He's in.
If there's anybody around us, I haven't even seen them, and that's saying something.
No, 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 no.
Then
They
where
got
did
my
that
blood
come
and they got in
from?
my head.
Gods.
That's going
Yeah,
to be another
so it's-
tedious problem we have to deal with.
So we have remote whammies to contend with.
Yes.
That could explain your rough night, actually, coming to think correctly.
I mean, maybe.
More than likely. That's a higher chance of yet. Remember where we are. Remember what we're chasing.
Okay.
No, no. Look, you know how fucked up that was? I wanted to destroy that goddamn ring because I thought it was it was just that was the only thing I could think about for a second.
And in all fairness, you did kind of have a point, but at the same time, you were. I mean, even without the whole needing it to make sure that if Alice moves, we know where she's been moved to. It's
Mhm.
also her wedding ring.
I know.
So
And who am I
Remy,
going to find out?
I'm so sorry, Remy. I'm so sorry.
It's not your fault. But it means somebody knows about the rings that they can do the enchantment on that.
I mean, isn't
Hmm.
reading thoughts a thing?
I mean,
there's
Could be.
also detect magic, and Clarity, who's been mostly keeping quiet at this point, saying, well, yeah, like I said, identification spells.
mhm.
Not to mention, from still from Clarity, every time something's gone wrong. I mean, I heard the story about the Shadowfell. You've
Yes.
used it in a lot of situations, some more or less dire than the others. She used it to find you when you got swept away by a sea of deep gnomes? When you were hunting the purple worm? And I remember
Hmm.
that because I thought it was funny.
In
Remy,
hindsight, at least.
remind me, does it only work between you and Alice, or if someone else is
Between the two
wearing...
rings, it's the ring itself.
Hmm.
So yes, it's possible they could take it elsewhere, but
Because
then
my
they
thinking
wouldn't
is,
have needed to want us to get rid of it.
Which it means if they do have her, they've tried to remove it and failed. I have a theory. And it's not great, but it may be an in if we handle it right. We've established they don't want her dead, and they want her with her full faculties. Getting her full faculties back if she was exposed to the sticks takes a fair bit of magical oomph, and I don't know if that's the sort of thing that a trapped Tiamat could be asked for at this point. Probably not. Either because she can't, or because Arkin doesn't want her knowing how close the potential for her little test is.
Now, we
So,
have an in.
so if that's the thing, if she did lose her faculties either by them making it happen or them having caught her when she was just blundering around trying to, well, I say blundering, but her background is the people. And before that, Belarus street rat?
pretty much.
So a survivor.
To say the least.
Mm-hmm.
So anybody who wants to particularly take anything from her, or even subdue her, probably that would be a fight to the death,
Definitely in this place.
which is something they don't want happening. So, two options. One, they've somehow managed to cage her, which I doubt because then they would have just taken the ring away anyway. Or they've penned her somewhere, not wanting to get too close just in case something happens they can't take back. And if you can find anyone, I mean, they'll probably have summoned someone who could heal, restore, wish. Probably planning to properly contain her in that moment when she's off balance. Again, theory, entire theory. But right now, it's the only thing that makes any sense to me because otherwise, if they wanted the connection between the rings cut, why didn't they just take hers?
Hmm.
Hmm.
Mm. I mean, now that we're almost a day and a half journey from them, it's a little unfortunate. But those Azamar, the hiding ones, they got very, very tight-lipped about any of the ways that anything that was remotely helpful to us. Honestly, they're a little. All right, they're very shell shocked.
Mm.
But I just wonder if any of them are at a point where they might have that kind of ability. None of them said one way or another. Don was basically made of hopeless, but that Daria, I think she'd have a lot to say if she wasn't constantly getting swatted down. Most of her conspiracy theories seemed perfectly right to me. Things we should have asked.
Yeah.
I mean, the other question is, those of you who are remotely connected to anything that powerful, is there anything you think you could leverage for this? Because if we're the ones who can do it, they have to let us through.
What should I roll if I'm trying to recall anything of that nature?
Well, I mean, this is personal. You and the group. How could you get a deity to do me favors? Um, we'll start with a religion check and see how we go. I mean, Paler has given you a lot lately, so that's probably not something you're going to want to leverage for at least another week. As the prime material reckons time, not how he reckons time.
Yeah.
Remy has additionally asked for a fair few favors at this point. And the last one, if you remember from the conversation, Remy didn't technically pay for. Not in spell slot, not in material component. Technically, that was a gift from Zariel to Ava. And then there was that conversation she apparently had with Zariel later. There's one person among you beyond potentially Clarity who might have enough leverage with a being of that level of power. And you're honestly not entirely sure what the Archfey of Whimsy and Mischief would make of this kind of shit.
Look at Clarity. Then I look at Remy. Then Ava, then Remy, then Ava, then Remy, then and I'm just looking back and forth, clearly processing something.
Clarity is
Words.
your words, darling.
Trying to find them. Hang on. Remy, remember the more recent divine favor you got?
Yes.
The one that pretty much went directly that way, and I'm just indicating Ava.
I
I'm just
guess
looking
it's
at it.
technically like that.
That wasn't. I guess the best way to describe it is paid for. That was gifted. And I've already been asking, made a few pretty big asks. So, I'm a little tapped on that, prodding divine intervention thing.
From the Griffin bag. Shiny.
I mean, it's like Shuri said, this is somebody else's realm. We don't know what will happen, and while we still have a lead, we have to keep following that before we
Point being is
pray for a
that's
miracle.
no, but my point being is to what we can offer in any situation is is
May I?
I'm just gonna pull out Michigan and just snug.
Yeah, make sure he turns to Hazel. May I? I think I understand what you're trying to say.
Please do. Words failing.
I outlined a theory, and what Hazel is saying is that if we are to be the ones to be able to return Alisaie's faculties to her in that situation, we need to figure out who has that kind of leverage before we wander up in there. We need to know what resources we have. Because otherwise, we're a bull in a china shopping again. Because honestly, if we approach and we don't have the means to return her faculties to her, assuming that that's the issue, which I think I've made a pretty good case, we need to be able to do that basically immediately, or she's going to run away at best.
Mm.
And none of us have
And
wings.
thus, our resource is gesturing to Ava and Remy.
I think Remy's problem is that she also feels like she's been gifted adequately from her patron thus far. I'm not sure where Ava comes into it. I have a feeling that that's a personal matter.
I think I know. Yeah, because she would probably have started piecing the.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Remember when you were trying to bring Alice back in the tower?
I think that part they all got. It's it's more whatever you were asked about that, because I have a feeling it was more something you said or did at that time got something's attention, and that was a show some flash before you give the cash.
Well, basically, I called to Zariel in that moment, and he came to me later saying, I forget the specifics of the conversation, but
It was out of character. Well, actually, I'll have clarity because she's got the intelligence. He was really interested in that you called to him rather than turning around to Remy and saw a chance, like my patron did, and like he did with Remy, and probably with Lyra, to help you a bit more. But when it's something like that, it's gotta be a give and take. They've got to know that they can turn around to you and say, can you please do this with this power that I've given you? And usually they won't ask for something you wouldn't want to do normally. But I know you had some reasons for hesitating.
I did, but that doesn't matter if it can help Alice.
Sure he is. Just can as the completely neutral party in all this, can I ask what?
What the reasons for hesitating?
Yes.
Well, I'm nobility, and if I tie myself to Zuriel, that would be the two things would be at odds.
They wouldn't fit together as a thing. Well, okay, so nobility is inherited titles. We don't really have that kind of thing, so I mostly know from reading and occasional attempted dealings with various Baronsphere personages, mostly up until like now, effectively under the table. But see, here's the thing. Again, neutral party. Ironically, adventurers can afford to dither more. They can afford to be indecisive because they have people they can turn around to. They're not in charge. The one thing I do know a lot about is the being in charge. You haven't delegated anything, as far as I can tell. And your father would have been raised to be the lord of the manor, yes?
Mhm.
What do you honestly think he'd say? Because I'm torn somewhere between you have a life now, live it, and you're an adult. You shouldn't be turning around to me to tell you what to do. I mean, in all fairness, that's probably what I would tell my children. I will support you, whatever, but the choice has to be yours. I can't pick your life for you. And I have a feeling if your parents were halfway decent human beings, they'd be proud of you no matter what. On one level, if you're noble, you're sitting on a. Christ, who's echoing? That's Smeagol, I think. Yeah, it is. On one level, yeah, that's
Yeah.
definitely Smeagol. Can you mute, please, Smeagol?
Yeah, working on it. I've been like trying to futz with that to make it stop.
Can you do that on the break time and mute for now? We can run tests before we start again. Okay. Because on the one hand, if you're being a noble, you'd have to rebuild your barony in the middle of. Your barony is a bit of a mess right now.
It's an understatement.
That would probably take more than your lifetime, anyway.
Certainly be a lengthy endeavour.
And already you're kind of showing that you have no idea how to do that. Don't know who to ask. As I recall, you had Francine, the barmaid, in charge of Star Coast.
Hmm.
She jumped right in. She didn't want it. She just kind of did it. You have a bigger job. You're saving the world. You're the one who decides what that means. I'm sorry to put it this bluntly. Your parents are gone. What they want for you doesn't matter and frankly never did. You have to make your own choices at this point. What's more important at the end of the day? Would they somehow love you less? Are their parents like that? And even if they would they be the kind of parents you'd want to impress if they did love you less for saving family in the world over a fancy chair and an equally fancy hat? It's not a decision you need to make right this very specific second, but I have a feeling you haven't really been thinking about it that much because it's a hard one, and I understand that. Now is when you decide the course of your life, though. You deserve a solid path, not a balancing on a fence post for now. I think you've been wandering that particular neither here nor there for a while, and it feels very uncomfortable when you let yourself think about it, which you don't because it is uncomfortable.
I hadn't really thought of it like that, but yeah.
I'll say this. My parents, they run a herbal shop in not even in Enbeer. They run a little herbalist in Belarus. They wanted me to take it over because I was smart and organized and all the rest of that. And no, I wanted more. I wanted better. I wanted different. I wanted my life. So I moved to Amir. And yeah, I worked as a waitress for a little while, but I applied for just about anything I could that put my organizational skills to better use. And the day I made it into the administrative staff at the governor, my parents came down for a whole weekend just to. And okay, part of it was overseeing a very specific stock of valerian, but they took me out to dinner and told me how proud I was, even though I was a junior clerk at the time. And when I made personal secretary to the governor, they asked on my first vacation if I could come down and help them pick which of the two apprentices would be best to take over, because I knew the business and I was clearly organized and talented and understood the needs of any place I walked into enough to make that call. My parents supported everything I did. And I went to the academy in Belarus for a few years, that kind of thing. I'm pretty sure your parents wouldn't want any less, and I can't speak for them, but there's a pretty good chance that maybe they wish they didn't have to be nobles. Did you ever think that maybe they didn't want to do it either?
You made it look so easy, so I guess not.
Just because something looks easy doesn't mean it is, and doesn't mean they enjoy it. They didn't get to see anything. They didn't get to do anything. They didn't
Mm.
get to pick their friends, certainly. And how can you do that when you're nobility? It's all trading favors and the one-upmanship game, and you just get to have friends and pick family out of the proverbial bush.
Just glances at the others.
Being stuck in a nowhere, because that's where you are when you're not picking one or the other, is difficult. It's uncomfortable. It's not fun, and it divides your focus when it's needed for what you're doing. I get the impression that part of the reason that the dithering was happening was because there's that Temple of Nerul in the Alamaver Wastes. You were going to talk to one of your parents, weren't you?
It's an idea, yeah.
Why? Why do you need that? I'm honestly curious.
I was just afraid they'd be disappointed.
Does anyone who's known her longer than 10 minutes want to weigh in here?
No one could possibly be disappointed in you at this stage of the game. You're free to pick what you want, not what you think others want for you.
And just from a again neutral point of view, because apparently we only have the very vociferous one speaking up at this point. What do you think you'd be prouder of? You standing on your own 2 feet, or coming to him even though he's been dead for years? The first time you have a serious dilemma.
True, I hadn't considered it that way.
Your life is yours. If they be disappointed in you for getting more means to save the world, to save your family, to be yourself, if they wouldn't be proud of that, then their opinion isn't worth worrying about anyway. Please, anyone correct me if I'm wrong, because I feel like I'm talking very out of turn here.
Mhm.
Nail on the head.
I'll assume that that's agreement. Clarity is, I probably wouldn't have spoken up quite that much, but that's me, and yeah.
Mhm.
I'm still just holding Michigan.
Snug. Oh, no. Michigan loves his snug time. And honestly, you've got Butterscotch kind of poking out of Ava's haversack. You know, sort of a, did you forget me? Kind of.
Scratch, scratch, scratch.
So, if everybody getting snugs at the moment, and we're actually at around about break time, so we can let Marion consider that for a little while and see what comes of it. Because, I mean, honestly, I don't know if we're going to get back to Alamavera at this point, because everything's going batshit crazy with you people right now. So, you know, and also, at some point, when this is over and hiatuses are more or less done, or whatever is happening with Derek, because half the time I don't even know at this point. Dawn hasn't even spoken to me. But level up is going to happen. And I kind of need a decision before that. So, I mean, I didn't necessarily plan for this, but now that we're in it,
It actually works really well, I find.
It really does.
You are
Yeah.
eyeballs in it.
I will always find a way to make shit work. It's a thing. Anyway, we'll
Mhm.
take a break, and when we come back, more wandering, and we'll see what we do.
Mhm.
And we're back after a walking and talking session that was mostly about trying to determine exactly what resources and favors they can call in, which has left Ava with a different perspective on her current existential crisis, because that's kind of what we're here for. Big nasty battles, occasionally having your head fucked with, and existential crises. That's...
Doubt yourself at your own peril. I will unleash Michigan if you continue.
Snug?
Exactly.
So it scrabbles further into snug position. Snug.
Who was it that had their blood taken among
All of
us?
you but Ryden and me.
Mhm.
Clarity
Yeah.
is,
Yes, because
yeah.
you were at the shop. Remy will wave them over. We gotta be close for my blessing to help with resisting
Okay.
magical effects.
It's actually they're not. She's not waving at you two because you two don't have that issue.
Oh,
We're
right.
fine. Yeah.
It's Hazel, Barnabas, and Clarity that need to be close at this stage, as I understand it.
Yeah, we're at risk of getting whammied a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
And that makes me wonder, are we going to feel it in any way, or are we just going to suddenly start thinking weird like Barnabas did?
You just stop thinking weird.
Well, it depends what they do, I guess.
that's another. That's another thing that I don't think we thought about. Who got their blood taken?
And I know at some point, apparently, I think I did, just based on Remy waving at me.
Yes. What about the one who isn't here?
She definitely.
Mhm.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, I mean, Remy, what? Yeah, well, Remy, we saw more of your blood being taken. I imagine they did at least some of the same to her.
Very likely.
And even if they hadn't, well, as I understand it, that was extreme.
Yes.
Not a whole lot we can do about that.
Mhm.
Thankfully, she's in approximately the same boat as you are, in that she is more or less designed to resist that sort of thing. See, well, out of character, that's the only way I have to say the massively high charisma modifier.
And yeah, did you see the one I had on my save? I had an 8. It's half. It's both. It's a combination of half elf nonsense and Probably also clerical nonsense.
Well, I suppose there's one good thing. If they're aware of how any of this panned out, which I assume they must be since they're going around the houses and trying, they probably won't go for the ring again.
Hopefully.
The whammies will be after something else. Or using a different type of spell.
Just have to keep an eye on each other while keeping an eye on everything else.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's made this so much easier, hasn't it? I can't.
Paranoia sucks.
I can't. I can do the hold thing one more time. That is one more time, isn't it?
Let's try and save that for an emergency.
I have a spell that ensnares, but it takes me a while to cast.
Me and Barnabas have hands.
We brace for it as much as we can and we keep going. Right? Right?
That's all I can do at this point.
Mm-hmm. Out of character. Barnabas and Remy's hands are rated E for everyone.
You! I owe you a mech fight for that.
I don't want to know. I don't want to know.
Nope.
I have decided I
Moving
do
on.
not want to know. Yes, moving on. I mean, to be honest, the rest of the day passes more or less uneventfully. You apparently have a few days worth of travel, but Avernus is weirdly quiet, at least on the track you're currently on. By the time you've sort of settled in for you know, dinner rest for what passes for night in this place, Clarity is just, is anybody else wondering when the other shoe's going to drop?
Mm-hmm.
Pretty
Yeah.
much constantly now.
Quiet.
I'm sure he is. Just, I suppose it sort of makes sense. If the most recent demon incursion is more or less done, then apart from the occasional potential for scouts, we've still got at least another day of travel before we actually run into, well, two armies. Need to figure out a way past them.
All we can just roughing it out here, but I think all we can do is get to there, and if we see an opening, go for it.
Well, it depends on if anything else happens meantime. Yeah, can all of you all make me a perception check, please? Pff, Christ.
I see.
There we go.
Nat 20 buddies. But the problem with that is that the second we get spotted, we're going to have them all falling on, all surrounding us.
On the subject of things having spotted you, I mean, Barnabas has a moment of person, wings. Maybe we've been catastrophizing. Hazel and Ava, on the other hand, no, Alice doesn't wear armor. The colors are wrong, and that must be one of those Aranis that that Cherie was talking about.
Boy, either we duck or start pulling out weapons.
Well,
Duck.
apparently pulling out weapons has happened because I was watching what Marion just did. So it's like we
Well,
either
she's
duck.
not like saying she's preparing, but
Yeah, but
Both?
it's still it's we duck or pull out weapons.
Or, okay, I guess we're doing that then.
well, does it look like it spotted us? Can you tell?
Well, it's heading in your general direction, so yes.
Hmm.
Brace.
Brace.
But let's not get immediately antsy. Remember, law. Evil put law.
Lands a good 50 feet away from you. Tall male, unreasonably handsome under the horned helm and the rest of it. The mortals don't generally do that well here, no matter what the Archduchess says. Yeah, you seem to be doing remarkably well.
Yeah, I'd say we're lucky that way.
Does not look particularly impressed, and Cherie is just either that or we are far more skilled than some would give us credit for. I know that we are probably no particular match for an Archduchess of Hell, but we are not without our resources.
I'm just gesturing to that.
The Archduchess would like a word.
Ooh.
And how would she be having that word with us?
You would be ferried to a more comfortable space than this for a conversation.
And we would have a guarantee of safe passage in and out of that location?
You would be returned to the spot from which you were ferried. If we don't particularly reach an agreement, we get a 24-hour head start by Avernus time. I think that can be arranged.
Remy
Right.
looked to the group at that, not objecting.
Clarity is just his, somewhat curiosity. It's like I've never seen a more comfortable neutral spot by an Archduchess one thing before. So apparently hers is if this is what we're doing, this is what we're doing. Anybody else looking like they have any objections? Because Remy is apparently waiting for.
I don't like it, but saying no would also be one of the stupidest things we could do here.
Yeah, that's kind of the same.
Yeah.
mindset.
Basic wisdom based on the logic thus far. We go with this because law, the rules are the rules here.
We're not here to fight the Archduchess, which I guess she already knows.
Either that, I mean, at least partially that, but mostly I think, this from the Aranese, I don't think she would have a problem with you wanting to fight her. I think she would be very amused if you thought for 1 second you could win. In any case, wave the hand, and those of you who have played Baldur's Gate 3, you know the all of a sudden you are in fancy digs.
Good God, it's House of Hope all over again.
Except there's one thing I have to say. The they overpowered Azamar in that game. They also overpowered Cambions.
Cambions are
Weenies.
Wait, they
In,
have Asmar? I thought they didn't have Asmar.
It depends on the Cambion and how
Dame-
much weaponry they're carting around.
Dame Aelin is an NPC. She's a direct descendant of the moon goddess Selene. And
Yeah, she's a-
girl plot armor.
She's also a level 20 paladin and several tiers of yikes.
but Cambions, according to what I've read about in 5e, are kind of effectively like half fiends, usually brought about by mortals. They're a challenge rating like 2.
They're middlemen, but they can vary depending on the Cambion.
Yeah, but Raphael is... Them making Raphael a Cambion was idiotic.
He was not. No, that's the thing. He's not. He used
then-
to be.
well, then
he stopped being one.
Yeah, that's apparently very rare, but Karlach got it very wrong then.
Understandable given the hells.
Well, to be fair, she was very much on the ground, like, an awful lot of the time. And in that kind of... In the mess where the Blood War was actually happening, yeah. Anyway, so, yes. I mean, it's fancy, but it's a sort of a sparse fancy. It's not red velvet everything. It's the kind of old stone castle grandeur where, frankly, if a fight was gonna break out, why the hell would you have, like, fancy furnishings, etc., if there was any kind of chance that nastiness would happen? Of course, there's also the fact that seated at the head of basically mead hall table, for Remy and Hazel in particular, the religious ones, yeah, that did used to be a solar before. It looks like very large rats have taken chunks out of her face and they've healed kind of badly. One arm is missing and has been replaced with a flail. Whatever hair she had at one point is now literal fiery halo. And wings are now very much without their feathers, so you're left with something a bit more bat-like. Please, take a seat.
Remy sits.
Yeah.
It follows.
Very concerned looking, but sitting.
Yeah, it's actually good to be concerned because most of what she looks is angry. Her eyes literally burn. Literal little flames of hatred. Oof. I'm double checking a few things. Why are you here? Not here in this room. You're here because I summoned you. Why are you in my territory?
Just look. I'm like looking from one person to another to see who's gonna make an attempt to answer, and just like looking at Shuri in a oh god
And,
hell.
well,
Tiamat,
because you go on.
Tiamat's forces took someone important to us.
You're not going to elaborate at all, are you?
Rat. You will understand my caution, I hope.
I don't have to understand shit. Yeah, Insight Queen, Zariel, you're thinking back, and you vaguely remember something about fallen solar somewhere. Hubris, bloodthirst, and rage.
Remy, let's just answer the question completely and not make the Archduchess angry.
My apologies. They took my wife, an Asimar of Pelor.
Uh-huh. And what do they want with an Azamar of Pelor?
Revenge and likely experimenting with what the corruption would do to someone of a celestial descent.
Anybody want to make me an insight check at this point?
I'm definitely doing that.
Yep.
Woo!
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, nope, too bad. It can't process.
Yeah, Barnabas. She doesn't like being in this position, so she's trying to hide it. She doesn't know what the fuck the corruption is. She knows she's fighting Tiamat on Asmodeus's say-so, because apparently Tiamat's getting too big for her britches somehow. But the soul taint? They don't know about that yet.
Dear.
And of course, there's only Barnabas who's seen that.
You don't know, do you?
Oh my god, you had to say it.
Barnabas!
No.
Careful!
Cherie just puts a hand on Barnabas's wrist,
Oh, no.
squeezes hard enough that the nails come very close to breaking the skin,
Hmm.
and then looks at this Archduchess of Hell and says, "What he means is," little tighter on the wrist, "that if we were going to enter into some kind of bargain, we might have a little bit more to offer you than just removing a potentially painful reminder from your territory." Barnabas, your wrist hurts, but when she says that thing about painful reminders,
Mm-hmm.
that's an micro flinch.
Sorry.
Cherie hit a massively exposed nerve right there. And from the look on Cherie's face, she did it on purpose.
Drawing fire, oh dumbass.
And let's go of Barnabas's wrist now that she doesn't have to shut him up anymore. So you are offering a bargain.
Yes.
We have a mutual enemy.
Remy gets this look like, and you honestly think that you would turn the tide against a god?
We have been fighting against that god, against her plots on the material plane, with every intent of stopping what she wants.
Barnabas, she needs to shut up. She needs to shut up right now because she is currently impugning
Mm.
Zariel's power. Just
No. Uh, what we are offering is information that will be of great use to you in this conflict. That oh, knowledge is. Oh God, how do I say this? God damn it!
if you would, you not only can we remove said painful reminder from your territory, we can also ensure that Tiamat does not cost you more of your forces to sheer chaos than she might be already. All we require is passage through your army without being molested, and a crossing of the Styx. Perhaps, if the information that we have is deemed worth it, a little distraction so that we can approach the tower without the Abishai army giving us issues. But either way, we simply need to get there. Beyond that, we can do the removal of this particular situation and the provision of information with no more than that. We wouldn't want to put you out. Let's see what your information is worth. Looks at Barnabas. Since you were so very keen to point out what I don't know, why don't you enlighten me? Like I say, Barnabas' insight, you fucked up so bad, and it is a miracle you're not dead.
Mm-hmm. Well, Barnabas is going to proceed to tell her everything he knows about the corruption.
Yeah, that's going to take a while. So, and I'll let it go for now. But I want a wrap up summary from you in character. But he's giving the full report. That's fair. But at the same time, there's going to be a certain somewhere in the early part of that, he just gestures to the table, which actually has like food on it, just as a help yourselves kind of a situation.
And I insight or somehow religion check that, if either of those make sense.
Um. Well, what are you looking for? I need to know exactly what you're.
Just wondering, because rules behind everything. It
Is it trapped, basically? That's and
I
trapped or dangerous.
is there.
I'm going to give you this one because raised by halflings, hospitality, you were promised safe passage, and if you refuse her hospitality, you're being fucking rude. You don't want to be ruder to this Archduchess of Hell than you've already been.
Yeah, so thus gonna just, as politely as I physically can, despite the near jitters
Yeah,
following through.
it's not great, but it's not ambient quality food. It doesn't taste like cardboard and ash either. It's about 4 or 5 steps up from the blind harpy, which means it's edible.
Yeah, just near total silence from me and just this look of abject fucking panic.
And it's almost certainly not humanoid sentient souls. So there you go.
Is the other half of what I was worried about. Is there anything that I might have remembered as being that?
Well, to be fair, Cherie warned you about that, but no, it doesn't seem like it. So yes, after that particularly long report, how does Barnabas sum up?
To sum it up, I'm probably going to get the terminology wrong, but what Tiamat is most likely fucking around with some sort of extra dimensional thing that will corrupt even her and make it even worse in an attempt to get more power or escape. And it's
Cherie is probably both. We all know how the looking for the power is usually a thing.
yeah.
And you only seek to remove the wife.
Correct.
I will ask you a question. And if I do not get an honest answer from it, there may be a little bit of difficulty in this negotiation. When you say an Azamar of Palor, that feels like a bit of a runaround. Specifics.
An Azamar of Zariel.
Have we given her name yet?
No, apparently.
Her name is Alice.
Doesn't seem to care about the name, but is looking at Remy. And that would be a sun god solar.
Yes.
First generation.
Yes.
Give me a reason I shouldn't just see her dead.
Because Tiamat is the greater threat, and Alice is an integral part of our effort to oppose her, to stop this corruption
But
from spreading in our realm and in yours.
But this one said Tiamat wanted her.
She does. We've all fought her forces, killed her dragons. Alice's killed her dragons personally. Tiamat wants her to suffer for that, but she also wants to know what the corruption will do to her.
And if nothing else, her living and getting away will. I mean, it might be small, but it'll piss Tiamat off to no end at a completely different target.
Clarity makes an addition. Also, following on from there, talks about revenge and Tiamat being really, really annoyed. If she's alive and on the prime material plane, some of her forces might, and it's just some of her focus might be on getting to her and to us, and wouldn't that be very, very helpful for your war effort? I'm going to be kind, and I'm going to let Remy make the persuasion check with advantage because you have had help.
Oh!
I don't think anything
That was
besides an
almost-
Act 20 would have worked.
Yeah. Oh, that was almost so bad.
And I'll be fair. You're gonna have to thank Lindira for simply the concept of clarity, because while Barnabas was sort of help, it needed more than that. And I think Lindira probably would have. If Lindira hadn't come up with that herself, I would have nudged her into it because that's the kind of thing she'd think of.
Mm-hmm.
She's smart.
Yes.
Barnabas is a blunt instrument.
Yes, I think there was a reason why I did say that while your original character had some very, very lucky rolls, that your charisma probably did need to be a little lower.
Oh yeah.
Glad to see I got the spirit of the character right, although admittedly I'm still glad I could let you play him at all.
Mm-hmm. Me too.
The,
Me too. And honestly, I like him better with the yeah, I got a base 10 charisma. I'm just here.
Oh, you attracted Cherie, so that's something.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was the sole bright natural 20 moment of charisma you had.
He knows when he knows with that's the extent he's way luckier than he has any right to ever have been, and he's at peace with that.
Glances around the table. What is she seeing, Zariel, from you all?
Slowly eating after Hazel started.
Yes,
and
but
looking her in the eye.
yes, but pretending that I'm not even bothering to roll insight because this is a fucking Archduchess of Hell. So a little bit more than just looking her in the eye. Let's start with somebody who knows how to talk about emotions, and maybe that'll inspire. Barnabas.
Oh, Barnabas is like, look, he is like, we've given everything we could to keep up our end of the bargain, and let's just see how it goes. And if if it doesn't work, well, time to fight.
Because you in no response to how much you've pissed off an Archduchess of Hell.
Well, he feels like an idiot, and it's probably like, and I'll make sure I go first, so that yeah. Like she could definitely read that, like, well, she's mad at me, so I'll step in front of Cherie and the rest of them, and maybe they'll be able to get away while I die horribly.
But then you know these guys, and you know that's not going to happen. Hazel.
Right.
Mostly just trying to keep the lid on as much as possible and not have a moment of panic flail and failing the hospitality maneuvers.
You're also having to wrangle a Michigan who is nudging onto the table. Delicious.
Possibly, but let's just keep that later. Okay, Michigan, later. You can hear the just anybody who knows known Hazel long enough. This is terror she's experiencing right now.
Ava.
Not quite at the level of Hazel, but she's definitely nervous, trying to not let it show too much. That she's probably not succeeding quite as well as she'd hoped. Mostly just trying to follow cues from the others as to how to react, because she had no idea what to do right now, because she doesn't really deal with demons and.
Of course, this is probably also solidifying the no, I'm really not a noble, am I? I can't speak up in scary situations worth shit.
Yes,
Okay.
that's not my point.
Rylan.
Kind of similar, honestly. Just I'm trying to keep cool, but also there's a little bit of like I am really hoping this is going to work out. So there's a little bit of hopeful enthusiasm underneath all the panic button.
Aw. Remy.
She's meeting her eye in an attempt to prove that, they're worth, as worth respecting as an archdevil can respect mortals, trying to prove that they are as confident as plucky mortals can be, and she's been trying to push the logic angle about a mutual enemy.
Meanwhile, Clarity is basically doing the I kind of miss when I could hide behind my hair. And Cherie is probably the only one who is not having to try. Because she, at the very least, knows what it is to have these kinds of dealings with a relatively powerful creature. And in fact, Zariel actually turns around to her and goes, "You're the only one who doesn't seem particularly afraid." Well, actually, you'll probably like this a bit more than if we'd spoken to the other side of this conflict's leader. Um, this was probably common knowledge in the hills for quite some time, but my employer is an ancient gold dragon. Probably not too far off Archdrake, if my reading is correct. Yes, you're probably more powerful overall, particularly in your own domain, but it does mean that I'm relatively used to sharing space with powerful entities, particularly given his co-governors, sometimes even ones that might get angry with me. The bargain has been that I leave you where I found you and do not truck with you for 24 hours. I'll hold to that. That'll get you to the edge of the sticks. There's a ferryman. You'll deal with him as you see fit. I don't take part in this until you cross the sticks. If you're going to go through my armies, don't parade it around. As far as a distraction goes, we'll have to see what's available. I'm not particularly fond of you people. You appear to be chaos on legs, and my lord is not particularly fond of that sort of thing. However, it seems more chaos is going to be happening in the long run. Do not make me regret this lesser chaos I am allowing. And gestures, and you were all sitting on basically benches, and now you're not sitting on anything, so you just poof onto the ground. Ah.
Hazel is hyperventilating.
And
So that was probably
Michigan is just snug in the kind of I am being called
Ash.
snug. It's slightly choked because getting the air squeezed out of him, but doesn't seem to care.
So that didn't seem to go all that well, but she didn't murder us, so...
Yep.
He didn't instantaneously immolate us.
The thing that I think some people noticed and a fair few didn't, something I read about, which, sorry about your wrist, by the way, but actually, no, I'm not.
no.
She fell because of hubris, bloodlust, and violence.
That explains a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Making her mad is a bad plan. Making her mad is a very bad plan.
And yet we managed to survive it when we did it about
Uh,
3 separate times. I think I spoke very, very well, and when I get back, I am asking for a raise.
Yes.
That's very fair.
And if you decide that I'm too much of an idiot to stay around, I understand. That was the close. I realized that was the closest I've probably ever been to death.
And worse. And a lot worse, probably.
Yep.
You're not.
Yeah.
You're
You
not.
know.
You're not stupid. You are simply lacking in some of the social graces. You can learn those. It's fine. A little smooch on the nose.
I love you.
Well, I suppose at least we can save some of our rations for another day. Is everyone all right?
Yes.
Yes.
If anybody needs under things prestidigitated, just I'll sit over there so nobody has to be embarrassed about it.
I'm
I'm
fine.
slowly calming down.
Actually, excuse me a minute. I didn't there, but I'll be right back. He can control it and not do it in there, but once that's over with, the Pied Piper is getting due now.
There are sufficient rock formations. It's fine.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I have to imagine that you guys have figured that sort of thing out already, but
Mm-hmm.
so
Well, that entire situation, which I'm eternally grateful to Sherry for getting us out of, that's gonna stick for a while.
well, in all fairness, I only gave a bit of polish to what you all contributed to the situation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's kind of why I was sent. Really, I wasn't entirely expecting to do that with the actual Archduchess of Avernus, but could have been worse. Could have been Asmodeus.
Hmm.
Might actually be Asmodeus because you know that Zariel is going to have to.
Oh dear, gods above and below. You're implying that that's going to involve a report from her to.
Well,
That makes sense.
don't we always give? Don't you always give reports to the local ruler when horrible things are happening?
By and large, yeah, it's just this is on a scale that's cosmic.
Yes, but you're already on Tiamat's shit list and favored by multiple gods. How is this worse?
Well, having Tiamat's negative attention is something we've been up to and, actively doing. The jailer of the damned is somebody I never wanted to even encounter, much less cross.
Little late for that now.
I mean, it was to be expected something of this nature when you came here, I guess.
Well, none of you ever do anything small.
No, we don't.
I was hoping that the biggest thing would be maybe, possibly being a blip on the radar of someone beyond Tiamat, not spotlight.
Look, I'm just grateful they didn't bring up the hiding Azamar and the rest of them.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's the thing, they kind of have to know. I imagine they're just leaving those alone because they're helping to keep the demons from approaching their rear flank. Which I should warn you means that they're probably going to be mildly annoyed if we take that bulwark against demon invasion back to the prime material. And I know
Means
we're
that if
going to
we
do it anyway, but
Hmm.
because we can't not.
that means we have to time it very, very well.
Well, there's one good thing. The fact that she's not doing anything until we cross the sticks, and her 24-hour moratorium on getting anywhere near us, it would appear that means not tracking or listening to us either. She knows which way we're heading. That means we
That's
can talk about this without, now anyway, without alerting her.
Hmm.
that's good.
But
Forgiven value of good.
after that 24 hours, we shut up.
All right.
I really do wish I'd asked exactly what this charm does. Although I have a feeling that the absolute best thing we can do in this situation, whether or not we find if we find Alice without her mental faculties, we have a couple of options. A lot depends on Ava, but our safest bet either way is to get close enough to her to activate this thing. But that still leaves the Scourge that are trapped in Arkan's tower, assuming they are. Oh, we need more information about that before we can do that particular plan, but then again, we don't know where they're holding Alice anyway, so we might trip over them. But if we can get them out, and if this thing only does take the 8 of us, we get gone right from as close to wherever they're penning her as we can, and send someone back for the rest of them. Maybe somebody can come up with something that will keep the, ironically, that will keep the demons off of Zariel's back flank, because as much as I'm not fond of supporting any kind of devil, I'd rather Tiamat and her army don't win this one.
Mhm.
It's very much a lesser of two evils situation, and that means that Asmodeus' army can't be fighting on multiple fronts.
It the very least puts localizes and keeps the problems to knowns rather than unknowns and potential rotations of the whole chronic backstabbing merry-go-round. Because Tiamat did it just the whole every which direction, and if they were working together, we'd have worse problems. Clearly, they're down to they've reached the point of just trying to murder each other.
Well, as far as we could tell from the uh, oddly well, not oddly, I suppose I'd want to know everything that was going on if I was trapped here too, but well-informed Scourge Azamar talking about how basically, yes, of course Asmodeus is going to want to know that Tiamat is still where he left her. And if they're not letting him see that, he's going to have to check other ways. And Zariel telling Asmodeus that means that Asmodeus is warned about what force for chaos is threatening his realm. He might end up recruiting a bit more in the way of some of the lower hells denizens, if he decides, I can't speak for God, but if he decides that that soul taint is that much of a threat to his domain, he's going to want to put his foot down.
That's a hell of a foot.
Yes,
Hate
but it's
to
on
say that
five.
word.
But it's five necks. It better be. As I say, I'm not saying we get directly involved, but
No. Ideally, we have everybody out before even more fiends show up here.
all I was saying was that this may have been more helpful than we think. A few
Yeah.
foot or hoof in mouth issues aside, if Asmodeus and Zariel do keep pushing that front, Tiamat won't have quite as much time to focus on the prime material.
True.
Splitting her attention
Well, it's like I
more
was.
ways than she has heads.
Well, it's like I was telling Zariel. Anything we can do to split her attention is going to be helpful all the way across the board. I just didn't mention the benefits her getting her armies better staffed would be for us. You don't say that kind of thing in negotiations. You make it sound like they're doing, that they're getting everything, but they're not. In this case, it's just I didn't want her to think that we thought even for a second that she was serving us in any way.
Yeah, she would have not have like that.
No, definitely not. But if somebody's weakness is hubris, you can play on that to get what you want.
Mm-hmm.
And what we want is Tiamat not quite so focused on the prime material, so we can figure out exactly what to do. This is also those of you who are particularly focused, intelligence memory wise. It might be a good idea to keep an eye on the terrain we're passing. Because we might have to come back here if it comes to taking the fight to Tiamat.
Got it. Out goes the notebook.
I'd probably stick to closer to the actual towers, but I'll make sure that everything we've come across so far is appropriately noted for you. I know that currently you need your hands for your weapons. And
Yeah.
occasionally for clamping your own muzzle shut. This head bump on shoulder. I tease because I care.
We are eternally grateful for that.
Mm-hmm.
And since we are at approximately that time, we'll have everybody turn in for the night, and in 2 weeks we'll see about what, if anything, Ava's going to ask about, and see about crossing a war zone.
In hell.